So yeah, with materials, we want to talk about how this is working. And so the first thing is every single object here with materials has a default kind of white material on it. It doesn't have any shininess to it, and it's responding to the light in the environment. As a quick reminder, in this mode, we have the light in the environment, this material preview mode, is set by this drop down. And right now we're in this like odd garden, but we can change it to like studio lighting or parking lot or, evening. For our purposes, it's going to be best to stay with that like garden light so that we can kind of see the object and its materials. Now, the way that the material works is it takes that surface of the object, that face, and it applies another surface on top of it, or it changes out this white surface and puts something new on. This default white goes away. And in order to do that, we actually need to look at the material panel. So I'll come on down here. Now we've been close to the material panel when we have been in the data panel, just one right underneath it. Now, when we want to add a new material, I'm going to say new. And the first thing that we want to do, we want to call it what it's going to be. And you can do this later, but I recommend that you stay pretty habitual about naming your material the second you make it. I'm going to make this red plastic, right? And so if I scroll down here, I see the kind of material this is. We're going to go into this in the future. And I see my base color. That's the first thing I want to adjust. I want to adjust this to just be a bright red. Cool. And already that material has replaced the kind of default material, and it's giving me this kind of reddish look. Now there are other qualities to how the light bounces off the surface of this material, and those are down here, and it can be overwhelming. So there's a couple things that I'm going to teach you right now, and then we'll look at some other things later. So first one is going to be the roughness. The next one that we're going to be talking about is going to be the metallicness of this object. And then we're also going to look at the emission of the object, and that will be all that we'll do for today. So for red plastic, it's not metallic at all. Now, in reality, objects either conduct electricity or they don't. And so objects that are metallic conduct electricity, they're metallic. Objects that don't are dielectric, meaning they're an insulator of some sort and they don't conduct electricity. So if something's dielectric, that means that it is not metallic, and so it's 0. And if I wanted to turn this metallic, I go all the way up, and now this looks like a Christmas ornament, right? Hey, I do want to show you something. See all these facets? I don't want to see them right now. I want them to go away. I'm going to right click and shade smooth in object mode. And that will make this look really like a Christmas orb, or an orb that you see on a bush during the end of the year if you're not into the Christmases, which is fine by me. Sweet. So this is a metallic orb. This is now a plastic orb. Let's talk about roughness next. So with roughness, this talks about how the light hits the surface, gets trapped in all the little canarbly bits on the surface, and then bounces off. And as it gets trapped, it kind of creates this weird phase. Well, what I want to do is I want to show you how to change that. Roughness by default is set to 0.5. If I go all the way up, now that light is getting completely trapped on the surface and not really bouncing off. The only thing that we see is this kind of reddish ball. If I go all the way down to 0, it's like this plastic is super duper shiny. It's kind of beautiful if you ask me. And so with this super duper shiny perfect plastic, it's like it's polished to the point where it's perfectly reflective. The light hits it and bounces off like a mirror. And so if I want it to be somewhat reflective, I can just kind of scoot this over, and now this looks like shiny plastic. I want it to be a little bit less perfect. There we are. So there's my shiny plastic sphere. If I come back down to the materials, I see that this red plastic is here. I want something else to be red plastic as well. What I can do is I can click on this sphere, and this time, instead of hitting new, I can click on this little drop down arrow and I see the default material, and then I can go red plastic, and that will apply that red plastic to it.